Waves of destiny, tides of the heart. Exhaustion had infiltrated every bone in my body, the weight of the night's events pinning me down until, without realizing, I drifted off beside the bathtub. The sudden, sharp voice of my mother cut through the morning silence, jolting me awake. "Amma, what on earth happened here?" she exclaimed. My eyes snapped open. I immediately checked the bathtub, relieved to find the mermaid baby sleeping peacefully. However, as I surveyed the room, the aftermath of the chaos became glaringly apparent. Trails of water snaked from my bedroom down the stairs. Heart pounding, I scrambled to my feet and hurried downstairs, dread mounting with each step. My mother's voice, laden with stress, grew louder as she itemized the mess, the soaked floors, the door left flapping in the morning breeze, remnants of the storm I had unwittingly let inside. Her rebuke stung with every sharply uttered word. "I must have been sleepwalking," I stammered, the lie leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. Honesty had always been my refuge until the Mermaid saga forced me into this web of secrets. It had been ages since I'd caused any real mess. Pressed for time and already dressed for work, my mother merely shook her head, a blend of frustration and concern etched on her face. "We'll talk about this later," she said briskly, her footsteps retreating to the front door as she left instructions for me to call the cleaners. I trudged back to my room, a brief sigh of relief escaping me. That was close, way too close, yet my relief quickly dissipated. As I turned my head, my gaze landed on the empty bathtub. Panic surged through me, sharp and cold. I tiptoed through the house, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm, whispering makeshift names for the baby who had none. "Bubble? Finny? Please. Where are you?" Each call was more desperate than the last, echoing through the silent house like a plea. When I found no sign of the baby, dread propelled me into a frantic dash. Approaching my parents' room, the sound of splashing water drew me hesitantly to the door. I assumed it was just my father in the bath, so I started to back away, but then, the unimaginable. I bumped into my father on the stairs. The splashes weren't from him, they were from the baby. Adrenaline kicked in, propelling me back into the room. There, in the frothy waters of the bathtub, the mermaid baby flailed about. I scooped her up in a rush, wrapping her in a towel as her tiny body quivered with excitement against mine. As I hurried past my bewildered father on the stairs, I forced a semblance of calm. "Just a spilled bath," I called out, my voice trembling with the strain of feigned nonchalance. Another lie, adding to the tally for today, both to my parents. With urgent determination, I bolted out the door, clutching the baby tightly. Each heartbeat pounded a stark reminder of the fine line between safety and disaster. My breaths came quick and shallow as I sprinted toward the shore, the threat of catastrophe looming with every second she was out of water. Memories of Kweku's initial panic upon seeing her on the ground flashed before me, underscoring the severity of the moment. Reaching the shore, I found Kweku serenely perched on his usual rock, a calm oasis in stark contrast to the storm raging within me. "I can't do this, Kweku," I blurted out, my words tumbling in a torrent of fear and despair. "I'm not equipped for this. She almost died last night." In a surge of panic, I thrust the baby into his arms. "Take her, please." Kweku, caught off guard by my sudden outburst and the unexpected weight in his arms, momentarily faltered, his face flickering with surprise. His deep, chocolate eyes shifted from my frantic face to the baby, swiftly assessing her with a protective, piercing glance. To my dismay, she responded with innocent giggles and smiles, blissfully unaware of the danger she had faced. For a moment, I was spellbound by his tender gaze and the profound softness of his expression, which seemed to peer into her soul, affirming her well-being. Watching his worry fade into a look of immeasurable love was deeply moving. Yet, as I watched him interact with her, a new fear took hold. What would he think once he knew the full extent of last night's peril? "She's fine," he reassured me gently, his voice a soothing balm to my frayed nerves. However, his calm did little to dissipate the shadow of dread lingering within me. "No, she's not," I found myself protesting, driven by a mix of guilt and the need to make him understand the gravity of the situation. He looked at me with a hint of disagreement, but before we could delve deeper, he raised his hand to pause the discussion. "Give me a moment, Amma. Stay here," he commanded with calm authority. Cradling the baby, he then dove gracefully into the water. After a tense minute that felt like an eternity, Kweku resurfaced onto the rock, alone. My heart raced. "What did you do with her?" I demanded, my voice edged with sharp anxiety. "She's safe," he replied, meeting my gaze steadily to calm my fears. "Now, tell me what happened last night." As I recounted the terrifying events, my voice trembled and my hands shook. The visceral fear of losing her, the frantic efforts to keep her safe, and the crushing weight of feeling inadequate overwhelmed me. Kweku listened with intense focus, his steady presence a counterbalance to the turmoil of my recounting. Once I had finished recounting the events, Kweku responded with a calm that seemed to wrap around us like a gentle wave. "It's all right, it's over now, and she's fine, safe because of you." "But she was outside alone in a storm while I was comfortably sleeping in my bed," I countered, my words sharp with guilt. I searched his face for any sign of judgment, but found none. His gaze was gentle, patient, and free of condemnation. "Amma, you are more capable than you realize. Last night proved that. You did the right thing. Trust that you'll always know what to do," he assured me, his voice firm yet soothing. "I'm not cut out for this, Kweku," I confessed, feeling the weight of my inadequacies crushing me. "I'm not her mother." "You say that, yet you've glanced behind me with every word," he observed softly. "I assure you, Amma, she's safe. I won't let anything harm her. Now that you're here, we can both continue to ensure her safety. It's not me she needs, Kweku. It has to be another like her," I insisted stubbornly. "You possess strengths my world lacks, Amma. You are the calm that could soothe the stormiest waters for our daughter," he replied, his words imbued with a conviction that was hard to ignore. "But if you had seen what happened last night—" I trailed off, my voice thick with emotion. "Ask her, Kweku. Then you'll understand. You should be furious with me," I blurted, surprised by the crack in my voice. Was I close to tears? "Easy, Amma," I whispered to myself, taking a deep breath to steady my nerves. Turning back to Kweku, I was met with his unwavering calm. He leaned forward, moving closer, reducing the distance between us, his presence both startling and strangely comforting. To my surprise, he gazed at me with the same tender care he had just shown his daughter, a gaze I had thought reserved only for her. His eyes gently caressed my soul, and as he clasped my chin, pulling me closer, the intensity in his eyes deepened. Our faces were only inches apart. "Shh," he said softly. "I can't bear to see you upset." "I could never be angry with you, Amma. Not after how long I've waited to be this close to you." The coolness of his wet fingers contrasted with the heat of his breath, creating a complex dance of sensations. His closeness, his directness, it was overwhelming. I felt myself starting to drown in his presence, but then a part of me snapped back to reality. "Stop saying those things," I managed, stepping back to regain some control, somewhat prepared this time. "We can't let our feelings get confused, just because I wanted to help your daughter, Kweku. You can't just go around confessing your love so blatantly." Kweku's expression softened. He moved back, allowing the sea breeze to cool the intensity between us. "I apologize, Amma," he said, his voice still gentle but filled with a profound sincerity. "Here, on this rock, out of the water, it feels like I am holding my breath. Every moment is precious, and I have no time for frivolous words. My directness is born from the urgency of what I feel for you, a necessity, not a choice. And every word I choose, especially those directed at you, is chosen with the hope that you will feel the depth of my heart," he continued, his voice deepening with every word. The struggle visible in his eyes spoke of the sincerity behind his words, each one resonating deeply. "Please understand that every word is a breath I can't afford to waste." I gazed at him, caught in the torrent of emotions his words unleashed within me. I'd never heard anything like it. In that moment, it felt as though the entire world had narrowed down to just the space between us, every other sound and sight fading into oblivion. I stood there, transfixed, a cocktail of awe and skepticism swirling inside me. How could someone so utterly from another world seem so earnest? His beauty was surreal, making the whole scene feel like a dream I might snap out of at any moment. Here was this stunning merman, laying his heart out with such straightforwardness, it bordered on the unbelievable. How difficult could it be for him, really, being out of his aquatic element? My biology grades might have been average, but I remembered enough. Fish breathe underwater. Suddenly, it clicked. He was practically suffocating just to talk to me. That's when I noticed his chest was perfectly still. Do you need to? I gestured towards the ocean, concern threading through my voice. He'd been observing me closely, and with a smile that seemed to read my mind, he replied, "No, I can last a few more minutes. I think." His smile was contagious, disarming my defenses. Ever thought about a message in a bottle? I joked, trying to lighten the mood. Kweku chuckled, a sound so delightful and unexpected that it jingled through the air like magic. The sound was enchanting, and I found myself entranced. My curiosity about his world piqued. "You could visit her, you know," Kweku suggested, noticing my glances behind him towards the sea. His tone was casual, but his eyes were earnest. "See where I've put her," he added, as if reading my mind. The thought of diving into his world, into the unknown depths below, stirred a mix of excitement and apprehension within me. "I'm not worried," I lied smoothly, though curiosity was gnawing at me. "But how deep down is she?" "Pretty deep," he said, "at home." "You mean to tell me you have an actual house down there? With seashell decorations and mermaid-proof locks?" I quipped, unable to resist the urge. For the first time, I heard him laugh out loud, a sound that rang through the air, surreal, his white teeth a brilliant contrast against his onyx skin. "Something like that, but you'd have to see it to believe it. It's pretty far down, though," he explained, his smile lingering. "Only merfolk can get there, or someone one of us invites." I considered this. Swimming was something I was good at, but diving into the depths of the sea was a whole other level. "Okay, so invite me," I challenged, half joking, half serious. Kweku's eyes lit up, almost immediately. "You're invited. We can go right now if you like." "Right now?" I hesitated, suddenly realizing the magnitude of his offer. "Well, I haven't even eaten yet, and I can't start my morning without a good breakfast. Plus, I have to study and call the cleaners." Kweku watched me ramble, an amused expression on his face. "We can wait," he assured me, his patience seemingly endless. "Okay, great," I said. "So, what happens now?" "Well, nothing. We'll need to make sure you can breathe underwater," he said. "And how's that supposed to happen? Will I need to get snorkels? Either way, I can't swim as far down as you're talking about. Sounds like the kind of depth that's long or longish. I could probably only get there with a submarine." "That's all right. We won't need any of that," he said. "Oh? Well, what do we need then? Don't tell me you have some kind of magical or technological artifact that allows humans to survive underwater," I teased. "It's not so much what we need as it is what we need to do," Kweku replied. "Okay, what do we need to do?" He looked at me then, as if assessing me. "We have to kiss. Come again?" I said, unsure whether I had heard him right. "Rather, I need to kiss you," he said simply, his voice steady, his gaze unwavering as my eyes widened on him. "Kiss? Me?" I stammered, taken aback by the sudden shift in our conversation. "You're joking, right?" But there was that earnestness again, that straightforward intensity that seemed to define him. "It's a mermaid Don't say it." I stopped him. "Don't tell me it's some mermaid thing. What do you mean, kiss me?" "It's how it works," he assured me. "It's the only way you'll be able to breathe underwater and make it to where we're going." Before I could process this revelation, my father's voice calling from the doorway startled me. I spun around, but by the time I looked back, Kweku was gone, just a splash in the water and ripples fading into the sea. Inside, my father informed me that he'd called the cleaners already and they'd be here soon. He kissed my forehead, promising a talk about the morning's mess when my mother got home. Throughout the day, I tried to stick to my routine, a quick breakfast, a failed attempt at focusing on my studies. I couldn't shake off the absurdity of Kweku's new proposal. A kiss? To breathe underwater? The idea battled with my skepticism. As evening fell, I spotted Kweku and the baby in my pool, their presence oddly comforting despite the day's earlier revelations. Holding the baby close, I confessed both to myself and aloud, I missed her. Seeing her now, noticeably bigger and clinging to me, I realized how deeply she had nestled into my heart, despite our brief and tumultuous time together. I placed her into the pool and watched her swim happily about. Kweku said nothing about earlier, simply stating he had come to give her to me for the night as she had been crying for me. The notion surprised me but warmed my heart simultaneously. She needs you, Amma, he said. As he turned to leave, I called out, Wait. My voice was firmer this time, my decision made. I want to see it, the sea, your world. Kweku paused, turning back with a hint of surprise. Are you sure? Yes, I responded, feeling an unexpected sense of excitement wash over me. The idea of exploring a hidden, mystical underwater realm was undeniably enticing. Kweku's voice broke through my thoughts. Amma, I want to explain how it works, so you understand what we're doing and why it involves a kiss. He began, his voice warm. The kiss is not just a kiss. It's a way for me to transfer a part of my mermaid essence to you. This is essential for you to breathe and move underwater as we do. I pondered for a moment, weighing the surreal offer. A transference of his essence to me, through a kiss. Did my curiosity really stretch this far? It would be my first kiss, and the thought made me pause. Looking at Kweku, I realized at least my first kiss wouldn't be mundane. Maybe it won't be so bad, I mused aloud, if it's just a quick kiss, right? It was only then that I realized something. So what kind of kiss will it be? You mean like a kiss on the cheek, or a kiss? I pointed at my lips. In response, Kweku gently touched his own lips, drawing my gaze to what had to be the most perfect lips in existence. There was no way he could have missed my blush at that point. His amused smile said it all. We planned for the dawn, and for that night, the mermaid baby nested in my bathtub, each tiny bubble she breathed weaving her deeper into the fabric of my heart. As I lay in bed, a tangle of anticipation and apprehension twirled through my mind, reflecting on how my life had veered into the realms of the extraordinary. Books had always been my refuge, a haven from the humdrum rhythm of my everyday life. Yet here I was, having gone from negotiating childcare terms with a merman to having his baby slumber peacefully in my bathtub, now contemplating a magical kiss that could open the gates to his world. The thought was both daunting and exhilarating. Kweku's realm, a tapestry woven from the threads of my most fantastical dreams, awaited me at dawn, all beginning with a single, transformative kiss. Morning came quietly. My parents, wrapped in their routines, left without a word, their minds elsewhere. I made my way down to Kweku, tenderly passing his child back into his waiting arms. She clung to me, her small hands grasping as if to say, "Don't leave." "It's all right," I whispered, feeling a distinct tug in my chest. "I'll see you soon." With that, Kweku cradled her close and dived into the crisp morning waters, resurfacing alone moments later, his eyes holding mine with a new, unspoken question. "Ready?" His voice was soft, threaded with a hint of his own nerves now visible beneath his calm exterior. "Wait," I hesitated, my heart hammering. "Will it be a short kiss? Longish or long?" "As long as it takes," he replied thoughtfully. "Probably a longish one." My breath caught. The idea of being in a prolonged kiss with Kweku set my nerves alight. Imaginations of our lips locked in a deep, lingering kiss swirled wildly, exhilarating, yet terrifying. Could I do this without making a fool of myself? Seeing my hesitation, Kweku's tone softened. You don't have to do this if you're not ready. No, I want to, I stammered, too quickly. I'm sure. All right then. He leaned in slowly, giving me a moment to retreat, but I stayed frozen, captivated, and scared all at once. Hold on, I blurted out just as he was inches away. This is just to transfer essence, right? Just a transaction, nothing more. He paused, a flicker of confusion crossing his features before nodding solemnly. Exactly. No pleasure, just necessity. Okay, then do it, I muttered, squeezing my eyes shut, my lips trembling with anticipation and fear. But instead of the immediate touch of his lips, there was a pause, a moment so tense it felt like an eternity. When I couldn't stand the suspense any longer, I peeked to find him gazing down at me, a mix of amusement and patience in his eyes. Then, gently, his lips met mine. The world fell away. It was just the soft warmth of his lips, surprisingly warm like a sunlit patch of ocean, and his subtle scent of the sea that seemed to envelop us. The soft pressure of his lips was a paradox, firm, demanding yet tender, as if he were pouring every unspoken word into our connection. They were sweet, as if infused with the essence of marine flora, offering flavors that seemed to capture the essence of his mystical world. My initial rigidity melted into the kiss, my arms instinctively reaching up, finding their way around his neck, pulling him closer, fingers tangling in his thick dreadlocks. The kiss deepened, and I found myself kissing him back. No, more than that. I was actively kissing him now, even overpowering him, pressing into him with a fervor that mirrored the pounding of my heart, shocked by my own boldness, but unable to stop. His presence enveloped me, the coolness of the ocean breeze against our skin contrasting with the heat between us. Every nerve felt alive, hyper-aware of his proximity, and the overwhelming sensation of being completely consumed. A tingling sensation sparked at our lips and coursed through my body like a current, both electrifying and warm. His touch sent a shockwave through my veins, igniting a wildfire that I couldn't contain. When we finally broke apart, I murmured, almost breathlessly, "Wow." "Sorry," I added quickly, heat flooding my cheeks, a rush of embarrassment, as I realized how generously I'd returned his kiss. "I didn't mean to." "It's all right," Kweku smiled gently, his eyes twinkling with a mix of surprise and delight. "You can do whatever you want with me. So, are we done?" he asked. My eyes fluttered open, still dazed, to meet his gaze, now amused yet intense, holding a tenderness that made my next breath catch. "Yes," I managed to whisper, my voice a mere breath as the reality of what had just transpired settled over me, unsure whether to feel embarrassed or empowered. "Let's see your world now," I said,